Welcome in, welcome in. We got a great show for you tonight. Just a few housekeeping changes. Instead of me going live on Twitch, X, TikTok, moving the live streams over to YouTube just because it's more stable there. So moving, or I should say going forward, look for the live stream to be on my YouTube channel, Off the Record D. Make sure you write that as one word. You'll be able to find me there. And then also, I'm working on getting those things scheduled so you can have the link for the live stream there in advance. All right, so that's our news and updates. So you see the topic for the show. Why is it speeding ticket news? That's the topic. We'll get to it, but I got a great show for you today. We got two teams actually in the NBA Finals that never won a championship before, and they're going to a Game 7. Game 7 is tomorrow. I think this is a big deal. One of these teams will forever be able to say that they are a champion and live in the history books forever. We got LeBron throwing a monkey wrench into everybody's week with a question that he was asked on his podcast, Mind the Game, with Steve Nash. We're going to go over that. Ring culture in the NBA, why is it such a big deal compared to other sports? Why is the speeding ticket news? I'll give my 5 reasons why the speeding ticket is news. I'll also bring some evidence to show you to back up those points as I'm making them. Then we'll finish up the show with Comment Creeping. That's the segment where I go over either on YouTube or my TikTok, and we cover things that people actually say to me. And I give you a response so you can actually see what they say to me. Follow me, Off the Record D. That's all one word. On all platforms. So follow me on TikTok for clips. Follow me on YouTube for clips. Follow me on Twitch when I utilize that more. Then also follow me on X where I'm pretty active speaking on things. Also, full replay will still be available tomorrow, 11 a.m. Sundays. If you have YouTube Music and you like to listen to things in your car, if you drive a Tesla, you can listen to YouTube Music in there. When I release it at 11 a.m., it is podcast format, so you can't listen to it in a long form version. In the near future, we will have the podcast available at 11 a.m. on YouTube Music, Apple Music, and Spotify. So just something we're working towards down the line. So let's get this show started. Let's get this thing kicked off with our first subject, which is the ring culture in the NBA. So what we're going to do is, the way we're going to break this down, I'm going to show you what LeBron said. Then we're going to get to the reactions of what LeBron said. Then we're going to do a throwback, and we're going to see if in the NBA they've always spoke about the ring culture. So let's get to it. Let's get this thing updated here. Just getting this switched out so you can see. We're going to get to LeBron James and Steve Nash on the Mind the Game podcast. Here we go. You should be able to see it now. So this is the question. I think a lot of people jump to have a response to what they thought LeBron said without understanding what is happening here. So this episode, they are taking fan questions. They got this question from someone on X. The question is, why is ring culture so much more prevalent in the NBA than any other sport? So remember, that's the question. We're only going to go based on the question, and we're going to see if anybody actually addresses this question. All right, so let's get it. Here is the first clip. Fair use for all the videos I'm using. I will be responding to them.
Dustin Nielsen, why is ring culture so much more prevalent in the NBA than in other sports? I wish we had a simple answer. Right?
Oh my goodness, I do not know the answer. I wish I had the answer to this, but I'm not sure, man. It's funny, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport and why it's the A-all, B-all of everything. Like, okay, you weren't a great player if you never won a championship. Yeah. It's like, or if you won one, then you can't be in the same conversation with this person. It's like,
but that's a great point, because what you're saying is like, no matter what you have, you need more. No matter what.
Right.
No matter what. Like, it never ends.
Yeah, right? I don't know, man. It's just like, you sit here and you tell me, you know, Allen Iverson and Charles Barkley and Steve Nash, you know, are fucking wasn't unbelievable. Like, oh, they can't be talked about or discussed with these guys is because this guy won 1 ring or won 2 rings or won, like, it's just weird to me. It's like saying Peyton Manning can't be in the same room with Brady or Mahomes because he only has 1 ring. They don't never discuss that in their sport.
Right.
Or telling me that Dan Marino is not the greatest slinger of all time, or he can't be in the room with those guys because he didn't win a championship. They don't discuss those things, you know. I don't know. I don't know. Did Barry Bonds win a World Series? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Fact check that.
Barry Bonds never won a World Series, and you can't sit here and tell me that he's not the greatest baseball player to ever touch a bat. I don't understand where it came from. I don't know where it started. I hope that we have to appreciate more of what guys have been able to accomplish, what guys have been able to do. A ring is a team accomplishment.
Right.
And if you happen to have a moment where you're able to share that with your team, that should be discussed. This team was the greatest team, okay? Or that team, you can have those conversations. But like trying to nitpick an individual because he was not able to win a team game or a team match or whatever the case may be, I don't know where it started. It's just it's a long conversation, especially when it comes to like, me individually. It's just so weird. It's so weird.
All right, so that's the full context on what LeBron said. He was answering the question. He answered it. I think that the way that we grew up, if you're a little bit older, the way you grew up on the NBA, you grew up on the NBA being celebrated. You grew up on them talking about players in a positive light. And that's something that doesn't happen now in today's sports. Everything is a debate, or it's in a debate form, and they're not celebrating the players. They're not celebrating the athletes. They're not celebrating the milestones. They're not celebrating them on their journey as they grow and get better and finally, reach the mountaintop and actually win a championship. So that's something I know is different. I've been really looking at a lot of things with how I was going to break down this week's episode. One of the things I went back to is I remember being able to see NBA inside stuff, and it brought like culture and the NBA together, and it gave you not an opposite, that's not the right word I want to use. It gave you a closer view of the players, and you got to understand them and who they are as people, and they were celebrated, and it was shown in a positive light. I watched a 30-minute episode of NBA Inside Stuff. I saw 5 Michael Jordan commercials. I want to be like Mike. It just, the way that the game was spoken on and the way they covered the game was different. And there's a new generation of people who look at highlights and watch some full NBA games, and they were never introduced to the game in the same way. So there is a clash where you see that older people who have been watching the sport, they have more of an affinity towards players than people do now. Now they write you off even when you're good. So that was LeBron. And now let's get to one of the people I believe who is pretty responsible for how the game is covered now, and that is Stephen A. Smith. So we're going to get to what Stephen A. Smith said last week. Let's get this switched over so y'all can see it. All right, so this is going to be Stephen A. Smith speaking on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Let me get the volume.
Giannis's career if he doesn't win another title.
Underachiever.
So he said it there twice. Stephen A. Smith said if Giannis doesn't win another title in his career, he will be an underachiever. So that set off another storm of people responding to. So you have people responding to the ring thing as well as the underachievement thing based on what Stephen A. Smith said. So now I have Gil's Arena. Gilbert actually wasn't there when they were speaking on this. Let's switch it back. There we go. And it's funny because I'm going to kind of play this in reverse because Norris Cole, I saw a lot of people in the comments agreeing with Norris Cole, but Norris Cole backed himself into a corner and he didn't realize until it was too late. Then he just had to double down on being wrong. And people were saying, oh, he stood on business. And I'm like, so standing on business is when you realize you're wrong and you just fail to concede. So that's a good thing? Makes no sense. So it's the poorest form if we were actually looking at this as a debate.
During his time in the league, Giannis has certified himself as one of the best bigs in the league.
All right, that's not the spot I want to. Do I have it here? I watched this so many times, actually. I think I remember that around the time where he was saying it.
He's all.
Underachiever, like when it comes to championships, yeah.
No, but I didn't ask you about championships. I said underachiever.
But we play to win championships, bro.
Do we? Do everybody? That's what everybody plays for?
The Pantheons do.
Everybody's going to win.
The Pantheons do. Those are Pantheons players. You try to win.
You try.
And if you fall short, you fall short. It's okay.
Or you underachieve?
You underachieve on the mission. You didn't win the chip.
All right, so I wanted to play that for y'all first because this was one of those situations where Norris Cole was on his couch and they were treating him like the cousin who just come around in the summer because he lived in a different state. They definitely was ganging up on Norris Cole. And this, man, now I know that McCants is really playing an act or a role when he's on there because the way that he was able to recall and go back to what, this is about 30 minutes difference, but I brought it this way to show you how he's going to kind of dance around what he actually said. But McCants is actually on top of it. So here we go.
He got just as many, if not more, individual records as Bill Russell. And so when you add all that up, and then I go with my eye test what I saw, I didn't get to see him play live, but from what I saw or whatever, when I'm looking at it, I see MJ is better than him. But not simply.
Yeah. Wait. Hold on, Nick.
You were about to.
But for rings, I can sit up here and say, yeah, Bill Russell has more rings than him. That's a fact. He do. And
so
that's
can I
okay.
ask you a question? Did you sit up here and say that the rings are all that matter?
No, I never said that. Rings are not all that matter. I never said that.
What? Oh. What?
Rings are not all that matter. I never said that.
For
well, we're going to bring it.
They put that pressure on him. And that's going to be a dub. He caught him because right in this first clip that I showed y'all, he was actually saying that rings do matter. So, I mean, we just caught it right there where he's saying rings don't matter. They caught him up in it. He backed himself into a corner because early on in this conversation, he's going to be agreeing with Stephen A. Smith that an underachiever is someone who doesn't win multiple championships. And he is kind of dismissing how much of a team sport and everything has to come together. Health can be a reason. Coaching can be a reason. Poor rotations can be a reason. All these things can come into play that can stop you from winning a championship, and you can be outstanding. So I'll give you a football example. Joe Burrow was so dominant last year. Their defense couldn't stop anybody. Would we say that Joe Burrow underachieved last year, or would we say that the team underachieved last year? So there's a line that you can put in the sand and say, this is where the team got, and this is how this person performed. And I think that is the easiest way to break this down and understand it. Let's play a little bit more because this is early on.
He won one, though, so how is he underachieving? If he won one, though.
He's comparing him to, I'm telling you from Stephen A's perspective, he's comparing him to like the Tim Duncans,
That's the only
the Hakeem Olajuwons.
That's the only one.
No, he's considering me as a great player, period. The other great players.
KG got one. Carmelo.
So if we really honest about it,
I'm not saying
Hakeem has championships because fucking Michael Jordan stepped away from the game of basketball.
That's true, but he got them, though.
So if we're really talking honesty and facts here, yes.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
He wouldn't have two. He might get one. He wouldn't have two.
And Shaq got some because
you asked me about Stephen A's point. I wouldn't have said what Stephen A said, but I'm looking at what he said.
Your personal.
I think from a basketball standpoint, if he don't win more.
So he's kind of shuffling right here. He is already starting to back off what he just said definitively. And I'm just going to give you all a little tip. To me, this is when I see that a person is not using logic to go through their argument. They're kind of just moving with the questions. And that's what Norris Cole is doing. So he started off definitively saying, yeah, those people are underachievers who didn't win multiple. Kenyon Martin realized he got him. Got him in a trick bag because he already got you. He made sure he got you to say, if you don't win more than one, you're an underachiever. The ones who didn't win one, they're underachievers. Now, look at how quick that Norris Cole is backing off what he already said.
More than one, I do think that's underachieving.
Why is Shaq winning something too, though?
Shaq got 3, 4.
And who else he had played with, though?
What you mean, who else he played with?
Who else he played with to get them things?
So that
played with Kobe, D. Wade. He played with.
Who Giannis played with?
Giannis is him.
So
Shaq can't win one by himself now.
No player can win by himself.
He didn't win one with.
Oh, okay. So that's what. So that's what they want him to go out and do. So cool. So Rashad, to Steve.
So they backed him in the corner. Norris Cole is going to start to get defensive. We're going to skip back. We're going to skip ahead a little bit more because they really are about to put the press on Norris Cole once they realize he's in the corner. And instead of him just conceding, he's going to keep doubling down on the argument that he knows he lost.
One championship is not
Like
enough.
that's not what he said, bro.
We gonna call Stephen A. an
Gregory Hines.
underachievement.
That's not what he said.
Hey, Gregory Hines, you gonna keep tapping
Nah,
us,
I said what I said. There's failures in a career and there's achievements in a
So,
career.
what number
But
is
what's
it,
the
though? What's
number
the number?
for
Because he
what-
has
To every person is
Giannis
different.
has achieved.
All right,
He
so
has
what
He
is
has won. He has an MVP.
Giannis is
He
like
has
that.
a defensive
I think
player
Giannis is the best player in the
So-
league.
so
But he
what's
said
the-
if his career ends, which we don't know how long it's going to be, we don't know because if he gets a nice roster and
he
he
only
only
gets
get one
one.
more, then that is, if he gets a stacked roster, we expect him to win multiple
No,
more.
it doesn't have to
No.
stack. So that's my thing. So like
You
we
get your
just
It's
said-
context to
So we
everything. It's
just
not
stated-
just a
yes.
flat out thing,
So
bro.
we
Just
just
set the
stated-
expectations.
And you just try to make it seem like
No,
he ain't achieved nothing. Nobody said he didn't achieve
No,
anything.
but
He's
I'm saying-
making it seem like
Yeah,
that.
I
He's
said
not
you
making it
asked
seem
him what
like
Norris Cole was feeling that pressure. It's like, you know, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and they're getting to that last question, and this is really, you got to answer it right to get the million or you lose the money. He feeling the pressure right now. He feeling that heat. I skipped forward because he was already starting to try to move away from what he said definitively earlier. Now he's trying to separate himself from Stephen A. Remember, in the beginning, he agreed with Stephen A. He said he agreed with him. Now he's trying to separate himself from Stephen A. And he's trying to wiggle his way out of it. But like I said, this is like when your cousin is here from out of town, y'all all ganging up on him just because. That's what they doing, because you'll never see this much unity on Gil's Arena. But they are coming together. They form like Voltron to go at Norris Cole.
You agreeing with him.
I'm
You
saying,
agreeing
what
with what
do-
he's
how
making
do
it
we
seem like.
he's not saying that Giannis didn't do nothing. Y'all know that. That's just
What's
blasphemy
the
to even
word
say that.
underachieved mean, bro?
He could have achieved more. That's what I'm taking from
Okay,
it.
so
that he
that
could have
means
achieved
every
more.
single great could have achieved
Achieved
more,
more.
Norris. What are you talking? That you saying
Could
that Shaq
Could
should
they have? Could they have?
Yes.
Yes.
So every single Pantheon could have achieved more.
Yes. If they stacked up on the same team.
If Michael Jordan won the
If
NBA, Karl
was the
Malone
fifth-
could have won a championship. Shit,
Michael Jordan was in the
absolutely.
league.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. So Norris Cole introduced the coulda, woulda, shoulda. And then they're using the coulda, woulda, shoulda against him. And he don't like it.
But he was. If he
Michael
wasn't,
Jordan is
if
in the
he
league.
but if
wasn't
he
in the
wasn't,
league.
he could have. Yes.
Hypotheticals.
Hypothetical. That's what we're saying here,
Okay.
right?
Hey, man.
But
I
my
said
thing
what I
is,
said.
so
Hey.
so everyone that I named.
So hopefully y'all heard that. He just said, I said what I said. Once a person, this is willful ignorance. And this is when a person is given new information. They're given new data, new statistics, and they still double down on something that even they recognize is wrong, but they just keep going along with it. And this is out of being stubborn. And this is when you know somebody is losing a debate. So he's already twitching. He started off, he was firm in his answer. Then he tried to move away from Stephen A. when they tied him to that. Now he is introducing the coulda, woulda, shoulda. They reversed the coulda, woulda, shoulda on him. Now he's trying to downplay the coulda, woulda, shoulda because it's not matching what he said. So it's going to get to a point where they all just going to gang up on him and say he's tap dancing, which I think is kind of funny. We're going to get to it.
Right, that didn't win one or won one by your metric and
And
his
his.
metric is an underachiever.
That's turning into the narrative for all players that, hey, man, that's
If you
what
win, that
Charles
ain't
Barkley was
shit.
just
I'm
talking about
asking
the
a question.
table. If
No,
you're not at the table,
We're
it don't
trying to
matter.
act
You're not
like
at the
winning
table.
don't matter, though. Y'all trying to act like winning don't
but
matter.
you saying
No, winning does.
He's moving that goalpost again. So this is an example, man. This went on for like another 30-something minutes. Once they got him back into a corner, he's moving the goalpost. They're asking him very direct questions without wiggle room, and he's refusing to answer them. There's one more point I want to show you where King is going to ask him some very direct questions, and he's just going to keep moving off of it. And that's when he really realized Kenyon got him.
You're saying
Like,
he got to
doesn't-
win
he
more
gotta
than
win
enough.
more.
Ain't enough winning
Like,
for him.
what's
What's wrong with him wanting to win more? I want him to win more. What's wrong with wanting to win more?
More.
What's wrong with
I
wanting to
want
win more,
more.
though? What's wrong
There's
with
nothing wrong with wanting to.
What's wrong with that?
It's just appreciate
more
what he has
success.
won already.
Hey,
I
more
appreciate
success.
Giannis.
You're saying he underachieved.
In
More
the grand
success.
scheme of life, Giannis is
No, but that's not
already.
my life.
But in basketball, he can achieve more. And what's wrong with saying that?
No,
What's
there's
wrong with
nothing wrong
challenging him to want to achieve
But
more?
But you're
challenging
saying
him-
he's underachieved. You agree with Stephen A. saying he
underachieved.
So
underachieved.
if he stopped playing today,
No way.
right? If he,
I wouldn't say
if
if he
he
stopped
woke
playing
up,
today, he's not
if he woke
underachieved.
up tomorrow and be like, I'm fucking done.
I wouldn't say
if
he
he did
underachieved.
Calvin Johnson,
I wouldn't say he
woke
underachieved.
up and said, fuck it, I'm done.
I wouldn't say he underachieved. I'd say he was an achiever if he stopped today.
So he said if Giannis stopped playing today, it wouldn't be an underachievement. It would not. Watch what happens when they ask his next question.
But why does that,
So
how does that change?
How about next year?
How does that change from right now to 5 years from
Hold on.
now?
How about
Because
next
5 years from now, you don't know how the roster going to look.
Maybe I don't
Everybody
need to
gets
win.
better.
If I don't need to win now, why I got to win 5 years from
Everybody
now?
gets better. So if he keeps
So hold
winning,
on.
then
Winning is not the ultimate goal right now?
If you're saying
He put his hands up. He know he lost. Just tap out. So I showed this first on purpose. I wanted y'all to see that, you know, it's people who are actually saying that Norris, you know, he stood on business. He was holding his own. And to me, this is a person who is initially firm in what they believe, and they fully backed off of what they believe once they got cornered, because then now they put you in a place where if you continue down the path that you're on, you're going to diminish so many guys' careers. You're going to diminish so many guys' careers. And once he caught up to what they were doing, then he just doubled down on being wrong, and that's willful ignorance. And that's just one of those. That's why I don't introduce that many coulda, woulda, shoulda arguments on my show. I don't really get into that. I don't do the debates because nobody is truly trying to debate. Nobody wants to bring their argument and then somebody brings a counter argument. What people want to do is, when it all comes down to they're in a losing end of an argument, they'll do something like the eye test, or they'll use something that you can't quantify. And that's when they know they lost, but then they introduce that unknown variable. And that's why you won't see me do debates with people, because they'll just, you know, they'll be a fish out of water and they're just wiggling all over the place, and they won't even stand firm to things that they were standing firm to originally. So I thought that was funny. That's just one point of view of how people wiggling around. So now we're going to get to, let's clean this screen up for y'all because we're done with those. Now, if you don't know,
You're free. I'm here. What he's saying is actually correct.
all right, let me get this pause. So now you have, this is First Take. They were at Fanatics Fest in New York. Tracy McGrady, Jason Williams, and Gilbert Arenas are on here with Stephen A. and Molly, and they're going back to the ring culture narrative. I think Gilbert Arenas is going to destroy Stephen A. in this, but I'm going to let y'all see, and then I'm actually going to pull up. We're going to take it to the Wayback Machine. We're going to rewind this thing back, and I'm going to pull up what Gilbert Arenas is actually talking about to see if it matches. So here we go.
Like, when did ring culture become a thing, right? When you talk about a team award, something that a structure needs to win does not boost you in front of individual accomplishments. And when you used Kobe, would frowned upon what LeBron said, I would disagree with that.
Got you.
I would disagree with that.
I remember what I said there.
In real time, Kobe had 3 rings. Y'all wasn't treating him like a 3-ring player. You was treating him like a sidekick. He was considered a sidekick. He was considered a Robin. He was considered the next Pippen. In 2002, with 3 rings, we were still comparing T-Mac. Who was better in the league? You couldn't convince the NBA down the middle who was better. So
between
T-Mac and Cole.
Totally true. Totally
Right?
true.
So if you're sitting there with 3 rings and you're still being compared to someone who doesn't have rings, what do you think happened? I need individual accomplishments. Can you please get rid of Shaq? Right? Because if it was about rings, there was no reason for the fallout with him and Shaq. The fallout was about you only respect the driver of the car. No one respects the passenger of rings. Right?
So right there, Gil, he crushed Stephen A.'s argument, and he showed how he actually showed some stuff that I don't even think he was intending to show. A lot of people go back to when LeBron went to Miami and he said, not 1, not 2, not 3, and they try to say that's when the ring culture thing started. But we got evidence, y'all. You know we keep them receipts on deck. Gilbert Arenas is talking about how the ring culture has been around. And it was around when Kobe was actually winning rings. And now it's a hot topic where people think that people are crapping on Kobe by saying Shaq was the more dominant one on those first 3 rings. He clearly was. Go look up the stats. Argue with somebody else. I'm not going to argue with you. I lived through it. I watched it. Shaq was the most dominant force in the NBA during that time. People have grown more fond of Kobe throughout the years, but in that first 3-year run, Shaq was definitely it. Clip this and then come back with Shaq stats versus Kobe stats in those seasons and in those actual playoff runs. And then we can talk about it. If not, if you don't know and you're just guessing, you're talking about 08 Kobe or you're talking about when Kobe scored 81, all those things, that's not the moment we're talking about. We're talking about Kobe's first 3 championships and how old he was in those first 3 championships. So let's get to some receipts on Gilbert Arenas' take right there. So he's saying that they were comparing, during that time, they were comparing Tracy McGrady and Kobe. And Kobe had rings, Tracy McGrady didn't. Let's see if this narrative is true. So I went back. Let me get this adjusted so y'all can see it on the screen. So I went back and I pulled up very old articles that they were written at that time. And this is in regards to who would you take? Or actually, no, let me give you the correct title. This is why Kobe's better than McGrady. I'm going to read the very beginning of this to you so you can hear how they spoke about Shaq at that time. All right, so this is by Mitch Lawrence. This is a special piece he did for ESPN.com. Had to go all the way back into the archives to pull this up. This is from Wednesday, November 27th. So, Kobe Bryant came directly to the NBA out of high school, so did Tracy McGrady. And that's where the comparison ends on this scorecard. So he's saying basically that's where their paths change. If I had to pick one player I wanted to start a team with and I was limited to perimeter players, in other words, I couldn't make off with Shaquille O'Neal and guarantee myself a few titles, I would take Bryant over McGrady without giving it a second thought. So in what Gilbert Arenas was saying, he said everybody was viewing Shaq a certain way and everybody was viewing Kobe a certain way. So we went back, we put up an article that was written during that time, and you hear in this article, this writer is saying if he had to pick a perimeter player and he couldn't just take Shaq and guarantee titles. How dominant do you have to be if they're describing you where it would guarantee titles if they took you? So that's proven Gilbert's point right there. I got another article. This is Monday, February 5th. This is also by Mitch Lawrence. This is a special write-up he did for ESPN.com. In 5 years, a prime Kobe will rule the league. Remember, he said in 5 years. So, why? Why would Kobe rule the league in 5 years? He'll still be in his prime at only 27 years old. So this article was written when Kobe was 22 years old. And he's way ahead of his peers as it is. By the middle of the decade, he'll be focused on winning championships, not scoring titles. So you hear it. That's 2 articles that back up what Gil is saying. So the mistake that people are making in this debate is they are looking at the overall career of a player and they are not looking at who the player was in the time slot that was given. So if you look at the time slot that was given, you see how they view Kobe at that time. They weren't saying Kobe was trash or not good or any of those things. They were saying in 5 years when Kobe was 22, by the time he was 27, he could be the most dominant player in the league. So let's get to the next video I have for y'all. So we're just breaking this thing down. We're breaking this thing down video by video. We're going point by point, and we're going back to the time when they were speaking on. We have next here. All right, so this is the pivot. I've covered the pivot before. It's been a while since I've covered anything they spoke on. So as I'm putting the show together, I'm gonna give y'all a little insight. I watched this video and I scrapped the first half of the show that I had put together, and I changed the subject to this because this is another time where when we talk about these things where people respond to what people said, we talk about these things when it comes to debate, people don't even address the point of what it was. So let's get to this. The pivot, fair use. Let's get to it. Let's get this played. I don't play nothing on regular
I
speed.
think it's the idea that a player's greatness is only validated by how many rings they win. Should a player's legacy be attached to how many rings they win or not? What are your thoughts?
I believe their legacy shouldn't be attached to it, but if you that dude, you need to win one, or you got to dominate. You got to do something crazy in that league where the Charles Barkley, I know LeBron brought up Charles, LeBron brought up Dan Marino. Charles was that guy. Dan Marino, everybody knew he was spinning that thing, leading the league in passing. Like, you know if a dude is dominating a sport, it's almost like dynasties where it's a team or a player that dominates a year span or so many year span. What's that year span? You know if a dude is that dude. So Charles gets respect. I know he brought up Peyton. I know he brought up AI. But you know if a guy was dominating a sport minus the rings, and then you know now I can compare him to the other guys. I think LeBron's problem is that he always gets compared to Jordan. And that's why he always brings up the ring thing, because now LeBron's on the back end, and that's what they want to do. They're both dominant players, but they want to bring up the ring. I think the ring conversation is very, very relevant, because if you're that guy, you should go and be the best player in the world that brings your team to be the best team in the world.
LeBron James doesn't have
So Shannon was off to a great start. I agree with the first half of what he said when he talked about if you're talking about the Iverson, the Charles Barkley, the Dan Marinos, then you know they made an impact. I think it's a very easy way we can determine if somebody had a successful career with or without championships. All you have to do is say, can we write the history of this sport, and do we have to include this person? So if you're writing the history of the NBA, can you write the history of the NBA without including Allen Iverson? I would say no. Can you write the history of the NBA without including Charles Barkley? I would say no. Can you write the history of the NFL without including Dan Marino or Peyton Manning? I would say no. Where I disagree with Channing is, as soon as Channing took it to LeBron is saying this to defend himself. That's where I disagree. Now we got Ryan Clark. Let's see what he says.
have a problem with ring culture. He has a problem with more rings culture, because LeBron has curated his career around ring culture. Because if he didn't, LeBron James never goes to South Beach. He went to South Beach because he understood that as individually dominant as he was nothing without those rings. And what's funny also, too, about LeBron is the fact that he's talking about the accumulation of something when that's the exact argument that all of his fans, all of the people that say he is the greatest, use. His accumulation of points over a certain amount of time, accumulation of assists, accumulation of rebounds. The reason he's pointing out the more rings culture is because he hasn't accumulated.
We're going to stop Ryan Clark right there. So we watched the entire question. We watched LeBron's entire answer. Never once did LeBron bring up accumulating anything. He brought up other players, and this is what happens. This is where people get lost and confused. This, on Ryan Clark, this is willful ignorance. That's what this is. He is not addressing any point that LeBron made. Channing addressed half of what LeBron said, and then he went off. Ryan Clark is addressing zero of what LeBron actually said. The question was, why is it such a big narrative in the NBA to speak on ring culture versus other sports? If this was the debate, and they were, actual debaters that get graded, Ryan Clark's argument, he would get a 0 because he didn't address anything. He had no counter arguments for what was stated. He just went to, you were doing this to protect your legacy. You know why that's a weak argument? That's a weak argument because it's nothing LeBron can do to change how he's viewed in these arguments. You have people who are in the Jordan camp and they're going to stay in the Jordan camp. You have people who are in the LeBron camp and they're going to stay in the LeBron camp. You have people who say Jordan is the greatest and LeBron is number 2 and vice versa. You're not swaying anybody with this. So everything that Ryan Clark is saying is irrelevant to the question, irrelevant to the point, and he just took it to LeBron. So when people usually do things like this, that shows they don't want to address when you have a valid point, because they move the goalpost straight away to something totally different and never address the point. I would ask Ryan Clark this question. Can you write the history of the NBA without the players that he named? Charles Barkley, Allen Iverson. Can you write the history of the NFL without the players he named? Dan Marino, Peyton Manning. If the answer is no, then you are actually on the same side as LeBron. But you chose to use it as an opportunity to go in on an attack against LeBron, which none of this has anything to do with LeBron. That is the laziest way that people make arguments today, and that's why I don't do debates. Because what people do is people in every situation shoot the messenger, and they never go after the message. So they'll say, oh, this person is saying it, disregard. Even if the person's saying something right. How could I ever debate with somebody who views subjects that way? So what people do is they say, oh, well, they're former NFL players, so we should listen to what they say about the NFL. Then 10 times in a row, they can't get analysis right. They can't call any games right on who's going to win, who's going to lose. They rarely identify, They rarely identify up-and-coming talent who's going to be the best. So then you say, okay, besides the fact that they played in the NFL, how can I value their analysis? Maybe I could value their experience, but their analysis to see things as they're coming, I don't think they're good at it. So this show, The Pivot, I was watching this, it's only 7 minutes, 2 minutes in. I saw this and I said, man, we got to talk. We got to speak on this, because this is a person willfully being ignorant and not addressing any of the points. And I don't think Ryan Clark is a stupid person. I think he, to what I've seen of him in public, the way he carries himself, the way he does business, he seems like an intelligent guy. So when people who have a history of being intelligent, they take this approach, I just call it willful ignorance, because that's exactly what it is. Let's see if we want, I think we want to hear from Freddie T on this. Let's skip ahead to him.
He more rings than the person that he's chasing.
Yeah, he just goes on a long soliloquy talking about LeBron, but let's get to Freddie T. All right, we got Freddie T here.
Yeah, I think, and I can't defend LeBron. You mentioned that. What? I can't defend it. I mean, it's so multi-layered, though. It's one of those conversations that is never ending. The GOAT conversation, never ending. It's a biased conversation. You can go and say, is it rings? Is it the amount of rings, right? Is it, what is it? Is it numbers? He has the greatest numbers. Does that make him the GOAT? Like, he doesn't have the most rings. If it's rings, we could talk about Bill Russell. So what's the conversation, and why is the conversation so relevant? It's sort of a irrelevant thing, but it's a great.
All right, so that was just Freddie T, man. You my dude, but you all over the place right there. This is not a GOAT debate. Ryan Clark turned this into a GOAT debate. This was a debate that people were actually having. This is totally different than the GOAT debate. This is our guys, or actually, no, that was with Gil's Arena. This is, do you value, or why is the value of rings so high in the NBA? That's the question. And all this other stuff is so off base of the actual question. Answer the question. And this is what I would say. I would say it's multifaceted reasons why people value rings. I would say, if you look at the NBA is a sport that people say, oh, I probably can do what they do. Even if I'm not as tall or I'm not as fast, I can shoot a basketball. So people diminish what they do based on it being something they think they can do. Then you look at how the game is covered. When these guys grew up and they were watching things covered, like I mentioned, NBA Inside Stuff, which ran for a while. So you were you had the way you viewed the athletes was totally different based on how it was represented to you, and that's gone. Now you look at how debate shows have dominated the sports media landscape, and the one that they scrutinize the most is the NBA because it has the longest season. They play so many. Well, it doesn't have a longer season than baseball, but they play for a longer amount of time, so it's more scrutinized. And then the stars in the NBA are so visible that they make more. They have bigger audiences, so they make for a better story when you don't have a story. So those are the reasons why I think that it's covered this way. But we got to get to who's the culprit, who started this debate style thing, and was it always about rings? That's the next question. Was it always about rings, or did this start when LeBron went to Miami that people started caring about rings? I would say it started before that. But let's rewind this thing back. So, I got some throwback clips. Y'all recognize those two guys. Y'all tell me how old they were on there. So, we got Stephen A. speaking first. Let's go.
At his greatness, put the period mark and the exclamation point there and say that's it. And what they're not realizing is that LeBron James, in my estimation, may be the most dangerous professional athlete in the history of this country. And here's what I mean by that. When Isaiah Thomas and Dr. J. Julius Erving and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and everybody were coming up and playing in the games, there was an unwritten code. You had to get it done. You had to win. What transpired was Michael Jordan ultimately had elevated to astronomical proportions, but he wasn't winning championship skips, and everybody was on him. It was Michael Jordan that took it upon himself that said, with these sneaker deals, with all of these endorsement contracts, I've got to close the deal. I got to get it done because I'll be sick to my stomach if I don't.
Did y'all hear that? So we got into this thing, and a lot of people, the first person they went to blame for why it's so important for you to have rings, they blame LeBron. But this is way before LeBron right here, y'all. LeBron was in the league, but Stephen A. just threw it back and said, this is Jordan in the 80s making ring culture a thing, while rings are important. Some people don't want to blame who they rightfully need to blame for these situations. But I'm like LeBron, y'all. I don't have one clip, not one, not two, not three. I got more receipts coming. Let's go to the next one. And y'all see, all you got to do is look at the quality of the videos that I found for y'all. Look at Stephen A.'s hairline. It was about 2 inches further to the front of his head, closer to his eyes. So y'all notice a throwback. Let's go. Let's see what he got to say. Actually, let me speed this up. I can't watch none of this stuff on regular speed. And this is the highest quality I can get this video at 360p.
Jim Boeheim and I, where we have an accord. LeBron James deserves, if anybody deserves to be mentioned in the same sentence as a Michael Jordan, it is Kobe Bryant and it is LeBron James.
Please.
There's no question.
You know what? I'm scared lightning might just strike the studio right now.
That's right.
You uttered those things? Did you pretend to know basketball?
Please.
Please.
I'm getting ready to break it down for you. I want to preface my comments by saying I'm not thinking about the rings because obviously they don't compare. I'm not thinking about the championship heart because what we're seeing LeBron try to develop is something that has existed in Michael Jordan from day one. What I'm saying is talent-wise, when you look at the numbers and what you look at what LeBron James brings to a basketball court, talent-wise, there is no question that he deserves to be mentioned. Now, ultimately, reality, lightning comes striking you down, and reality kicks in, and we're reminded of the greatness of Michael Jordan in key pivotal championship moments, which is something we lamented about LeBron James for the first 9 years. But I guess what I'm thinking about in terms of Boeheim is not that, because to me, the Jordan thing is a given. But the other part of it is I'm starting a team or I'm looking at a resume, and I can't have Michael Jordan. Who would I want? And I'm thinking about it on that level. And when I think about the multitude of things that LeBron James brings to the table, combined with the fact that he now has a chip to go with it.
Kobe in his prime or LeBron in his prime?
Kobe
Start your
LeBron?
team. Yeah, prime.
Kobe.
Thank you.
No, I said Kobe and LeBron.
Okay.
I said.
So y'all see, we're starting to take this thing back. We're going further back, and we're starting to see that rings was always a thing they talked about. This is not something new. They always talked about the rings in the NBA. They always did. But you know what? That ain't enough. That ain't enough. I think y'all need more. Y'all need something even more grainy, even further back. Now, this is the really early days of First Take. This is when I can't think of his name right now. His name is slipping me. He's on UCSS right now. The host that's up there with Skip Bayless. I can't think of his name. I'm sorry. That's not a knock. It's just, I can't think of his name. This is Skip Bayless taking an L.
Cummings in the game. It's obvious. If you watch him as closely as you have, they are there. But the D- is to automatically dismiss a line, Skip, 27 points, 19 rebounds, and 10 assists. Now, yes, the turnovers are inexcusable, and the shooting percentage was pathetic, but a D- implies that he is the worst student in the class. That's where I think those that come at you with that hater line, I think that's the problem that they may have.
We're back to Michael Jordan. I feel like he begged this comparison because he did choose number 23 and he's going to change to 6 next year, but he did steal the powder throwing routine, and I thought he shamed the number 23 the last 2 games, and that's my legacy for him right now because that's all I have to go on.
So y'all see, Skip has always went to the GOAT debate whenever anybody was saying anything good as LeBron was ascending. And of course, you know, at some point he's going to talk about championships in that clip. So this is not new. People just don't know where to search to seek out how the media was covering these things at that time. And they were calling it out at that time. They were saying it at that time. They were talking about rings at that time. So let's see. What's my next clip? That's going into Shador. Let's see. We're going to get this thing cleaned up for y'all. I got some more clips because the clips don't stop. The clips do not stop. Let's see. Here we go. Y'all can see it. Now, I posted some clips of Stephen A and Skip when they were on First Take. But remember, Stephen A wasn't the original host on First Take. It was Skip and Rob Parker. And Rob Parker got booted off of there because some comments he made. So this thing goes far back with these debate shows and their style of how they cover guys. And now you got to think what people aren't doing is if you were born in the year 2000, you either turn 25 this year, later on this year, or you're already 25. The entire time that you've been able to take in any sports, the debate culture was the main thing. No athletes were really celebrated the way they used to be. They weren't showcased in a way that they used to be, especially not NBA athletes. So you just grew up in this and you think this is normal. But the reason why we have all this player-driven stuff is because of how the game used to be covered. So you just think, oh, man, that's just how they do it. But let's take it back. I got where we got it at. I got Stephen A. Smith here. This is going to be on Russell Westbrook.
And I want to remind everybody who the teammates have been. Kevin Durant. Now, Russell Westbrook's getting paid over $200 million. And damn it, because of the fervor he brings to the game, I understand him getting that money. But in terms of results, Kevin Durant was your teammate. Harden was your teammate not once but twice. Reggie Jackson was your teammate. Serge Ibaka was your teammate. Victor Oladipo was your teammate. Paul George was your teammate. Bradley Beal is your teammate. I mean, damn. You've played with some great, great players over the years, some talent, and not a single title to show for it. So to me, if I'm going to look at everybody else.
So I hope y'all are seeing this. I'm putting this case together to show y'all this just didn't start where they're talking about the rings. It's always been a part of it. They've always done this. Stephen A's done this. Skip done this. Rob Parker's done this. They always talked about the NBA this way. They want you to believe. Everybody, they're saying, oh, LeBron, when he went to Miami, not 1, not 2, not 3. Nah, y'all was having that conversation before he made it to Miami. That second to last, or 2 clips ago, where I was showing y'all Skip Bayless when he was speaking on LeBron, and he was saying he had a D- because the Cavs ended up losing the game. That was before he went to Miami and they were talking about championships. And actually, in the full version of that clip, Skip is going to say LeBron is never going to win a championship, but we can't stay on there for too long. So they've always done this. So I got another one. This thing go ways back. This is Stephen A. Smith again. And y'all see it. All you got to do is check the mustache and the hairline to see how old Stephen A. was.
You got titles, King James, chosen one. None of the great guys, they shun all of that until they won a championship. It's like he wants to be crowned with no rings. You don't get to do that.
Skip's been saying
you
that
got to
for
get
years.
it done. I don't understand it. Champions don't do that. It's like he wants.
Y'all see that? I can keep going further and further and further and show you all these throwbacks of them talking on this ring debate. This ring debate didn't just start now. This has been going on. It's part of how the NBA is covered as a league, and they're taking a cheap way out by doing that. Oh man, this is about the GOAT debate, and by trying to blame this on LeBron. When all else fails in any of these debate shows, blame LeBron. That's all you got to do. That's what they do. It always goes to LeBron. And what these guys don't realize is they are turning into Skip Bayless. The problem is, where is Skip Bayless right now? He's on YouTube. He's the person that pioneered sports debating. And now he's on YouTube, and none of the major networks wanted to deal with him. None of them. ESPN don't want to bring him back. Fox Sports, he lost his wings after he had the stuff with Shannon. He brought in all these random people to try to compete with First Take, and he couldn't do it. His formula was dead. These guys are turning into Skip, and they don't even recognize it. When I played that throwback clip of Skip, and he said, "Oh, this goes right to Jordan," and he was bringing up the GOAT debate then, that's exactly what Ryan Clark did. They are turning into somebody who is no longer prominent in the game, and they can't even see it. Can't even see it. So let's keep this thing moving along. Hopefully, y'all are enjoying this. Let's hit that like button. Subscribe if you are here. You've been watching me this long. We coming on an hour in. Let's see. Let's get to what we have next. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that breakdown of ring culture, where it started, and people having dead end arguments. Now, the next thing we're going to get to is, let me clean some of this up on my side, y'all. The next thing we're going to get to is we're going to get to why is a speeding ticket news. That's what we're going to get to. So I kind of hinted that I kind of scrapped, my show kind of halfway through it. And it was 2 things that I saw. One of them was the clip from the pivot. When I saw that, I said, nah, man, we got to break down this ring debate thing and show that it goes way back further than people are willing to recognize. And then the other thing was this LeBron James ticket thing. I lightly covered, this Shedeur Sanders ticket thing. I lightly covered it, put out a short video about it saying, hey, he just has to know that he has so many eyes on him. It's a mistake. Hopefully it doesn't take 20 speeding tickets. You grab 2 of them quickly, get those 2. Don't get any more, stay right. Don't give people reasons to throw shade on your name. That's basically what I said about it. And someone came to me and said, oh, he's just a kid. Why is this a story? Everything Shedeur does is going to be a story. Everything. And I don't fight things that I don't have control of. I just accept what they are, and then I navigate based on what it is. So me identifying that most things with Shedeur are going to be a story, I accept it, and then I just, move forward. So let's get to it. All right, so my top 5 reasons why. So this is how we're going to do this. We're going to break this down. As I give you the reasons, then I'm going to pull up the receipts to show you to back up my claims and my reasons why. So the first one is it's no new Browns news right now. There's nothing going on. Shedeur is a name that everybody wants to be able to have a story about, and it's the summertime. Like I kept saying during this time, I thought it was gonna be quiet for the Browns. I'm like, we got 5-6 weeks, no new stories, nothing really going on. I thought that's how things was gonna go. And then this thing happened with Shedeur. So with no news, you're gonna have people who aren't people's favorite already in the Cleveland media. They are jumping on these situations. They are jumping on stories like this. So they are a part of it. So the first one is Mary Kay Cabot, everybody's favorite. I know y'all love Mary Kay. Mary Kay, now we're not going to go to these articles, but I'm just showing you. This is Mary Kay. Mary Kay wrote 3 articles on Shedeur Sanders getting the 2 speeding tickets. Three articles. So I want y'all to realize it doesn't matter how we as fans feel about things with Mary Kay. What y'all got to realize is when they need to speak to a beat reporter for the Browns, usually they go to Mary Kay. If you look at anybody on NBC, they want to hear what's going on with the Browns from a local person, they go to Mary Kay. If you want to look at Florio and what they do over there, that's also NBC, they go to Mary Kay. You're even going to hear sometimes ESPN is going to go, not ESPN Cleveland, ESPN is going to get information from Mary Kay. So even though we look at her as Browns fans, look at her like, yeah, she just kind of stirs up drama. That's not how she's viewed nationally because she's been doing this for 30 years. But that's one reason. No stories. She wrote 3 articles about it. Now, next, we're going to get to Tony Grossi. Tony Grossi, let me pull it up here. All right. I'm just updating my screen here. Tony Grossi, this is everybody's second favorite. When you don't have anything to talk about, you take the smallest things and you turn them into something major. So this is Tony Grossi speaking on how this could impact the QB competition. Shedeur Sanders tickets. Let's go.
With any member of the team, if they were cited for those excessive speeds, within a week. And it's not Shedeur's. It just happens to be him. It could have been Carson Schwessinger. The same thing would have happened. The same discussion would have happened. So that unfortunately for Shedeur, I don't think it's going to help him in this quarterback battle. I mean, he's not going to be rewarded with extra reps now at the start of camp, because it would come off as if he's being rewarded for something that was wrong. So he just kind of did just a little bit big.
All right, so 4-way QB competition. Shedeur gets his speeding tickets. We don't know if the Browns knew about these right away or what happened with that. So this is Tony speculating. And he's saying Shedeur is not going to be rewarded with reps in practice in 5 weeks because of these speeding tickets. That's an L. And we saw Myles Garrett flip his car over, mess up his shoulder. Did he lose reps? No, he was starting a week and a half later after it happened. Did he lose reps? So remember that first point. That first point was it's no other news, no other stories. And of course, everybody's 2 favorite people, look at how they wanted to spin this into something different. Mary Kay, her 3 articles. Tony Grossi saying this is going to cost him reps in the QB competition. It's just crazy. Everybody wants to have a Shedeur story. But let's keep this thing moving. Now, my second point is this is something easy for the national media to cover. Something easy. And that's the second reason why this is the news. So let's get to it. This is Bomani Jones. We're only going to play his open, so let me skip ahead a little bit.
I believe, since he has gotten to the Browns. One of them, he was driving in the 90s. Another one, he was driving 101 miles an hour. And I believe, Ryan, that there was a missed court date.
Yeah, I believe the timeline is go in 90, miss the court date, win 100.
Come on, man. So there's two levels of this for me, right? The miss the court date is come on, man, right? And that is honestly the part to me that if I am the Browns, that's the one where I'm really, really, really like, you have the right to wag your finger at him if you're the Browns about missing the court date. Like that is irresponsible in a way that you cannot simply write off to youth or immaturity, right? You are a quarterback in the NFL. You got to go to court. You can't forget this. I don't care how old you are. You are in a grown man's game, a grown man's world, a grown man.
So that's what you're going to stick on to? So I was going to tell you all this later on in the story, but he missed going to court for the arraignment. It's an additional $269 fine, and that's the difference that he has to pay to get this thing cleared up. These are speeding tickets. Speeding tickets. I don't do coulda, woulda, shoulda. So I'm not going to do coulda, woulda, shoulda turned into. I'm going to do this is what it is, and these are speeding tickets, and he can pay them, and they go away. He just has to not continue to be over speeding going forward. But you see, this is a way people who already had a negative view on Shedeur in the national media, this is how they get an easy story to say something negative about Shedeur. And that's what Bomani Jones is doing here. He picked that. That's the part I would have the issue with. Come on, man. Let's keep this thing moving along. Let me grab this. That's not what I want to show next. All right. So give me a second. Let me get this one pasted in.
Yesterday, and I wasn't really defending him per se. My points as it related to the news that he had a speeding ticket, one speeding ticket, was we've all had a speeding ticket. And if we haven't, we've all exceeded the posted speed limit at some point. We've all been tempted to see what it feels like to go 100 miles an hour or 88. See if we travel back to 1955. But, and again, I don't condone it in traffic, in any type of unsafe situation, at night, when it's wet, anything other than a fairly straight road. But when the word came out yesterday that going 101 in a 60 was not the first, but the second infraction of the month for Shedeur Sanders. Previously, he was going 91 in a 65. June 5 was that incident. June 16 was an arraignment that he failed to show up for. No big deal. Pays $250 and moves on. But the next day, he gets hit going 101. So I've had, I think, 3 speeding tickets, which isn't bad for driving for what? How old am I now? How many? 16 minus 46, 40 years of driving? Has it been 40, 45? Shit, I don't know. 44 years of driving. Okay. 3 tickets in 44 years isn't bad. But in the aftermath of getting each of my tickets, I was careful. And when I got my 3 tickets, I was not in, the public eye. Shedeur Sanders is as deep into the public eye as he can be. He was only a week and a half removed from getting his last speeding ticket, and he's going 101 in a 60. That just speaks to a lack of awareness. You got to understand how your behavior is going to result in consequences. And look, the brain isn't fully formed until we're 25. It's one of the reasons why the insurance goes down when you hit 25. We don't fully appreciate the connection between our actions.
All right, so we see, you see how Bomani went and said, the biggest issue is that he didn't show up for the arraignment. And then you see Florio, who was a lawyer, was like, not a big deal. You just pay the money and it goes away. So you see how the national media can jump on this story and turn this into something different. I think Florio has a similar view as me. Don't make this a habit. And also, this is a mistake because you have so many eyes on you. And I'm comfortable with that critique and that criticism. I think that's fair. I don't think that's crushing them. But there are some people, I saw somebody who commented and said it should be a felony on Shedeur's record. So they should change the laws with how this is handled just for Shedeur. So people dislike Shedeur that much. So this is Florio. That's his view. And this is one of those instances where I tend to agree with Florio. Just don't make a habit of it. So let's get to, I had to find that one. Let's get to the next one. So my next point is, we have allowed sports media to cross the line continually when it comes to players and coaches' personal lives. And I was saying this let me get Florio off the screen. I was saying this a couple months ago. It was part of my, like, when I initially started doing my live show on Saturdays, I just saw situations and I was like, they are too much into people's personal lives. And I saw them arguing if LeBron had went to Kobe Bryant's funeral. I saw that as an issue. I'm like, does it matter? This clip that I'm about to play from Bull is from 3 months ago. And I went over this clip 3 months ago. And I was like, this is crossing the line. This is too far. And there's certain stories that I didn't even cover. I didn't cover anything with Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. And I think that's crossing the line. He's asked people, hey, this is personal, leave it personal. And people still want to cross that line. And that's where I think we have allowed the media to cross the line with people we don't like. Because if somebody says something about a guy you don't like, you don't think about it. You just like, whatever, I don't like that guy anyway. That's what a lot of people do. I'm not saying all. A lot of people, just whatever. So a lot of people don't like Deshaun, whether it's his, he wasn't effective on the football field or his off the field things that he was accused of. So people don't like Deshaun. So when you cross the line with Deshaun, it's okay because you don't have any view or feelings toward Deshaun Watson. So it's okay. But now when you realize this has become a very large story over speeding tickets and there's somebody you care about in Shedeur, now you're like, how did we get here? There's a couple types of people. There are visionaries, and there are ones who have to see it happen to realize the problem it is. I saw this months ago, and I was like, hey, too many people in sports media are crossing the line, and they're hiding behind the fact that they're looking for answers, or they're hiding behind the fact that since you are a public figure, I get to be in your personal life. And I was like, that's a problem. You cannot continue to let this go on. The longer that you let people continuously cross the line into personal lives, the line is going to be gone. And I didn't really hear people saying much until I did this before Pablo Torre was going to find out information if LeBron was at Kobe Bryant's funeral. And I said that was crossing the line. And that's when people started to say, nah, man, we crossing the line. We going too far. We're in people's personal lives. So I said all that to say that I'm going to take this thing back. This is going to be somewhat of a throwback. This is going to be Bull 3 months ago. And when this happened 3 months ago, I said this was across the line. So let's play it.
At first, I was like, friggin' Anthony, what is he doing? I said to my wife, look at what Anthony did in this rundown. Putting Deshaun, making me talk about Deshaun. And then I was like, okay, this will be good because I can crap on Deshaun Watson. So I changed my mind. First of all, why, if you're Deshaun Watson, are you putting out pictures of you getting engaged?
What do you mean?
Yeah, he got engaged.
What are you talking
Congrats
about?
to the
He is an alleged.
So there you see it. I let that whole thing play. So initially, Bull said, man, Anthony put Deshaun Watson in the rundown. I don't want to talk about Deshaun. Then he said, no, you know what? I get to crap on Deshaun. So like I said, when it's somebody that you don't care for, it just happens in front of you and nobody questions it. And I was like, this is egregious. Then Bull says, who is Deshaun to put out that he's getting engaged? And I was like, how do people not see this as an issue? I'm happy Tyvis is laughing, but he asked him like, what? That's too far. Now, even Mikey is going to speak up and be like, that's too far. So let's play a little bit more.
Serial abuser of women.
And his fiance /
Nobody
wife
wants to
doesn't
see
care.
that. His fiance's an idiot for being with him.
Wow.
I mean,
So again, his fiance did something that's normal in today's time, which post a celebratory post of her excitement of becoming engaged. And this is Bull's chance to just crap on them because of how he views Deshaun Watson. And I think all of this is egregious. I think all of this is across the board. You see, Tyvus puts his head down. He's like, that's too far. You see, Mikey's like, nah, that's his fiance. And Bull is going off. And when I originally broke this down, I said, if somebody, not physically, if somebody in the fiance's family questioned Bull about calling her a name, which she never played for the Browns, she never suited up for the Browns, she didn't sign a contract for the Browns, I said they wouldn't be in the wrong because he crossed the line. And nobody cared because they don't care about Deshaun, but this is a problem. This is where the line, people, they cross that line, and what's the old saying? You give somebody an inch, they take a mile. Where do you think that saying came from? It came from situations like this where if you don't like a person or if you're nice enough to a person, they take advantage of you. And this is one of those where if you don't like a person, you can say whatever you want about them, whether it's justified or unjustified, when they're not doing anything out of the ordinary of how society functions and operates right now. And that's just a disaster and it's wrong. And this is one of those times, certain times I say, Bull, he can be hot or he can be cold. Sometimes he can ask a very good question when they're interviewing somebody. And then these times he can get in whatever mood he's in and he can just cross every line that's there and then just throw his arms up like, what's the problem? Nobody cares about him. The problem is people actually care about him. You think people in Deshaun's family don't care about him? You think Deshaun Watson's fiance's family, you think they don't care about her? So this is where you cross that line as a players and coaches' personal lives. And then everybody, now we pass the line and everybody trying to figure out why we can't move this line back. No, we let it be crossed. Let's see if there's anything else we need to hear from this.
Nah, come on, Bill.
You going too far.
If you knew,
if you love someone, you love someone.
He's allegedly sexually abused 26 women.
I'm not like giving him a pass for that, but if she's
Well,
okay with it, she's okay.
She's okay with it. Who would? What normal person would be okay with that?
People write love letters to Ted Bundy in jail.
Those people are idiots too.
See, this is all bad. This is all L. And he has no remorse for what he's saying. He's just crossing the line. And this is how they move right into your personal life and what you have going on. This is how they do it. Because they cross the line with people you don't care about. And then when they cross the line with somebody you care about, you're like, wait, how we get here? That's how. So let's get to the next thing. So now I'm going to show you about times. Actually, here we go. Yeah, I think I have it right. Now, this one, we're going to go. It's going to be a little throwback. I got so many throwbacks. I like taking it back to see how people handle situations. So this is going to be Stephen A. Smith answering a great question on Podcast P with Paul George. So fair use to all the videos I use. Hopefully I got it at the right spot.
Misconstrued, you know.
Let me rewind it back so y'all can actually hear the question. So you see it there, career regrets.
There's several, if I'm being totally honest. Me and Big Dog Glenn Robinson, I wouldn't do that. And to certain respects, believe it or not, Kyrie, you know, because I think that got misconstrued. You know, to me, you're so spectacular in box office. I'm tired of seeing one thing after another leading to you missing games. That was my only point. There's always something. I want to leave Cleveland. I'll stay here in Boston if you'll have me, and then you leave, and you go to Brooklyn, and it's one thing after another. After you got the brothers to come to Brooklyn, when you should have went to the Garden, you'd have been worth about $500 million more playing for the Knicks than for the Brooklyn Nets. And so that was my position.
Is that a little bias there?
Huh?
Yeah,
yes.
for sure.
Totally. I mean, listen, I'm praying on camera for Damian Lillard to be considered. You know, I love South Beach. Let's tax the whole people in New York, and I'm praying for him to come. Damn right. But the thing about it is that when that stuff happened with Kyrie, you know, he and his father and I are fine. But it got to a point where it wasn't, because unbeknownst to the public, the father, loving his son, was coming to his defense by sending me text messages that, quite frankly, I didn't appreciate. And so because of that, it took on a life of its own. And credit to Kyrie, I mean, listen, it's really nobody's business, but I feel because the story took on a life of its own, I really, really owe it to people to let them know. I'm not. I hope I'm not violating Kyrie's trust, because I usually don't. I don't betray people's trust. That's just a big thing for me. But I will tell you, we were at the Staples Center. Kyrie rose up on me. Lakers, Memphis Grizzlies. He rose up on me. I think it was either out of Denver. He rose up on me. He taps me on the back and he's like, "You still got that same energy face to face?" I said, "I'm standing here, ain't I?" And he was like, "It's really not about me anymore." And I looked at him and I said, "You're right. It had become about me and his dad and how we had elected to communicate with each other." And the shame of it is I'm 55. Obviously, his father is around my age. And the younger son was the one that had to educate us. This is really about y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just said that's what men.
See, I applaud Stephen A. for his take, and I applaud him for sharing that story, because a lot of people, they remember how hard he was going at Kyrie, and then one day it just stopped. And behind the scenes, he was taking it too far. He was showing up on ESPN saying Kyrie should just retire. His dad was defending him, and it went past the line. So a lot of times people don't see people running up to the line and about to cross it. People don't catch on until you're already past the line. Then when you pass the line, you know what I'm saying, you're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube and you can't put it back in. They already passed that line. They already moved on in how they handle it. So I showed y'all this to give you examples of how they cross the line and ways that they can handle it. So with Bull, he just crossed the line and didn't care that he crossed the line, even though they tried to slow him down. Stephen A. crossed the line with Kyrie, and they handled it to make sure everything was good between Kyrie and his dad. So to me, I believe this was a great way of handling when you cross the line. So let's keep it going with Shedeur and why the speeding ticket is news. The next one is Shedeur is such a polarizing figure in sports. And it's only, I think right now, we have 3 polarizing figures in sports. We got Caitlin Clark, we got Shedeur Sanders, and we got LeBron James. Those are about the only 3 people where love, hate. That's all it is. Like, it's no, let me warm up to this person. It's love, hate with those 3 people. And this goes based on whenever I post something about them. I mean, of course, I see it in comments. I'm doing research and all that stuff. But people those are 3 people that they bash them so hard or anything. I posted about Caitlin Clark when she came back from injury. In her game, she balled out. I think she had like 32, 8 and 9, something like that. And they won the game. And then somebody said, "Oh, why didn't you talk about Sabrina scoring so many points?" Because they ended up beating the New York Liberty. And I'm like, but they lost. Then somebody was like, "Oh, well, why didn't you bring up the turnovers that Caitlin Clark had?" Because they didn't affect the outcome because they won. And I was like, man, this is a crazy way to respond into this. This is like, I post about the WNBA. Sometimes, people don't see it, but I've been posting about the WNBA since the summer because I have a favorite team. My favorite team is the Las Vegas Aces. Asia Stewart is my favorite player. I watched the game last night against Seattle. Glad to see her back. She had another 20-10 game, but they didn't get her the ball enough towards the end of the game. I just got to deal with that L. But they're playing the Indiana Fever tomorrow afternoon. So, I'll probably have a recap video to that because it's my favorite team and it's a polarizing player. But Shedeur also he is a polarizing figure in sports. And I've just accepted. I don't argue why. I don't try to figure out why people hate him. I don't try to figure out why people love him. I accept what things are because I can't control it. I can't turn a Shedeur hater into a Shedeur lover, and I can't turn a Shedeur lover into a Shedeur hater, so I don't even try. Now, moving along to the next video, we have Colin Cowherd. And this is how polarizing Shedeur is, that people change how they view him in one instance. I'm going to put that up there, but y'all going to be able to hear it, so stay with me now. All right, let's play it.
Mike Tomlin
often says 2 is a trend. Can't screw up 3 or 4 times. 2 is a trend. Just 2 times. I'm not sure if I need 2 times when you're a young quarterback. 1 bad judgment turns me off. But I have now, in the last couple of months, 2 things that really turn me off with Shedeur Sanders, who I have championed. That cringy, awful, legendary draft room. Bro, you're a B prospect. You know, your dad's prime time, who led with his ego for years. You got to have a little self-awareness. I had more than one GM say, total turnoff. Come on, it's not the end of the world. It's a bad look. And now, this.
So that's what I mean when I talk about somebody being polarizing and reasons why people don't like him. They didn't like his draft setup for his draft party. They've never talked about somebody's draft setup before. And y'all can't see this. I can't show it on YouTube. But they're showing a video of walking through his draft setup and showing how they had all the hats laid out and stuff like that. This thing was in a tent that they set up because they're having so many people over. They can have them all contained in one space. And also he was, recording for some programs. So they want to have a whole setup there, which I don't see the issue with. But this shows you that how polarizing he is. People are just turned off on things that they're not turned off by on other people. But let's listen to Colin.
100 miles an hour. Yep. All you fanboys, go ahead. Manziel, Baker, Deshaun Watson, defended it to the hilt on your Reddit account.
So this is going to be something that I'm going to speak on. A lot of people are going to do this, and they've already started to do this. They are putting Shedeur Sanders 2 speeding tickets in the same category as Deshaun Watson's alleged things he was accused of, Johnny Manziel never opening the playbook, and allegedly using drugs and alcohol during the season, and Baker Mayfield, who came into the NFL with some off-the-field things where he allegedly was drunk at a bar, running away from the police, got tackled, planting a flag on Ohio State's field, grabbing inappropriate areas like Marshawn Lynch did on his TD celebration. They're putting those tickets in the category of those things. That's crazy. Like, how can you put those in the same category? None of those things are equal, and none of them are the same. But that's what they're going to do, because they're blowing up this situation, so this gives them an out. Because Colin, remember, he was all about Shedeur. He saw a couple of Shedeur passes. Shedeur should be the starter week 1. He should be the starter week 1. Now you're saying after speeding tickets, you're out on Shedeur. So is it every quarterback that gets speeding tickets that you're going to say you're out on? Is it every player that gets speeding tickets? Zach Edey just got a speeding ticket. He was doing 100 plus in the 55. So is it everybody? Is it only Shedeur who gets graded on this curve where you say you're going to write him off? We got to see. Let's hear what else he got to say.
Sorry. Don't minimize it. Don't pander. This is not good for a quarterback. Not good. As of today, and I've said this for years, I do not cling to opinions. New information, new opinion. I'm an airline pilot. We got a storm coming. Here's the latest radar. I'm changing my route, not flying headfirst into it.
And you claim to update your opinion based on new information, but how are you wrong so often? He even has a segment. He's wrong so much. He has a segment on his show. I know it happens during the NFL season where he was right and where he was wrong. In most cases, he was wrong a lot. He's wrong a lot about the NFL. He's been covering sports for all this time. People listen to him. He's been wrong so often. It's a couple people that, when it comes to quarterbacks, if they say they off a guy, that's usually a person I say, okay, that person's going to turn out to be something, because they are always wrong. Colin is one of those people. Nick Wright is one of those people. If it's in the NBA and me and Chris Broussard pick the same team, I don't feel good about it. Chris Broussard picked the opposite team as me. I feel real good about it. So, Colin, you out on him. What does that matter? Look at how many other quarterbacks who you were in on who turned out to be nothing. I think he was a big Sam Darnold got coming out of college too. He might have been. I can't remember if he was a Zach Wilson guy, but a lot of these guys, they say things like it's their way or no other way, and they've been wrong so much. I think I'm gonna do a full show. This is taking me into something different. I got some time. Y'all got time? Y'all got time? Let me give y'all a little preview of a show I'm thinking about doing. I'm thinking about doing a credibility show. And as a new person into this space, I'm looking to build credibility. So I'm not doing a lot of speculation until it's time and it's an actual game or a sport there, or I have something I could base my proclamation on. So NBA Finals, I'm posting on my X account. Actually, the whole playoffs. So what I think is going to happen, I'm picking winners, picking losers. At the end, I'll recap it and see how I did. Then NFL, during the NFL season, before the NFL season, I'm going to say I got an idea of some teams that I don't think are going to make it, and I'm going to write them off before the season starts. And all this lends to the credibility of either I'm going to build credibility or I'm going to lose credibility. But at the same time, when I do this show on credibility, I'm debating if I should look at some of these top people in sports and some of their picks that they had, like some of their picks in the playoffs, some of their picks before the NFL playoffs. Because if I can lose or gain credibility, why can't they? So just something I've been kind of thinking about that I might do. We'll see how it goes. He has more.
I don't think about him the same. There was a moment I thought Will Levis, about 4 months out from the draft, had a chance. And I turned on Will Levis when he started showing out like a bodybuilder, gun show. And I had 2 NFL coaches, both needing quarterbacks, who text me. Got my number and text me. They're like, this is the exact conversation we are having in our building right now. 2 NFL coaches, head coaches.
Will Levis was one of those guys that was easy to see coming. Every year, there's a quarterback who, for whatever reason, they didn't recognize he was good the whole college season. And then after the college season, they're like, hey, there might be something there. And they always shoot up the board. So Will Levis, that happened to, it even got to the point where the draft odds changed, where they thought Will Levis was going to go in the first round. And he even went to the draft, and he didn't get drafted till, I think it was the second round. But you were fooled by Will Levis. How? Also, when you're looking at quarterbacks don't have to be crazy in shape. I don't want the quarterback who looks like a bodybuilder, because usually they are putting all their whole body into throwing the ball. They can throw it hard, but that don't mean it's going to be accurate. That don't mean it's going to be on time. So I'm kind of against that from what I've seen, but everybody should have saw Will Levis coming. I'm not wishing bad on Tyler Shuck, but I think Tyler Shuck might be in that same category as Will Levis. Tyler Shuck might be in that category because he just shot up the draft boards late, and he was in college so long, he never had a dominant season. We never heard about him any year he was in college. So let's see how he felt about him too, but let's see if there's any more.
They're like, bro, we're laughing watching this. It matters. New information. Legendary. 100 miles an hour. Judgment is 50% of being a quarterback. When you fall to 144 in the draft and then try to match that number behind the wheel of a car, yeah, I don't think the same. You ignored signs with Manziel and Baker. And apparently, based on the traffic violation, Shedeur was avoiding some signs too. The ones that say...
So he tried to be funny there. The signs are not the same. Baker was small. Baker actually had legal things where he got in trouble. Johnny Manziel never opened a playbook. They saw right away he never opened a playbook. These are not the same. That's what he's using because they played for the same team. But that's a lazy narrative that he's pushing. And when Shedeur balls out, that's what I think he's gonna do. I'll be keeping receipts on these guys. It's gonna be on my YouTube. I'm not gonna take it down. I'm gonna keep receipts on these guys who all jumped off the train, and then we're gonna keep the receipts when they try to jump back on the train after they were so far off the train. And Colin's gonna be one of those. That's all we need from him. But still on the subject of polarizing. Now we're going to get to, this is going to be Get Up, and they're going to be talking about Shedeur.
Is working this morning. Mike Teague, we'll try it again. What would you say to him if you were the GM now in Cleveland?
I would say, look, when we bring him in as the head coach or the quarterback, you're the most important employee of a $6 billion enterprise, and how you handle things on and off the field matter. And Mark Schlereth used to say, Greeny, preseason games, they don't count, but they matter, and how you comport yourself off the field matters. And to have this happen twice would be a concern. It's not the end of the road, but let me bring you into what typically happens at the end of this time of year. You set your roster and your initial sort of reps for training camp. And if they're sitting there in Cleveland, Greeny, and they're saying Dylan Gabriel's a third-round pick, he's done well, Shedeur Sanders has done well on the field, but he's had these 2 issues off the field, albeit minor, they'll give more reps to Dylan Gabriel. Remember, every general manager has one formula on their board. Production equals tolerance. And as Graz mentioned, he's a 5th-round pick. He has not produced yet.
Go ahead, Dominic. We've got you back again. Finish up your thought, if you would.
Yeah, I think you should just ask questions of Dan Graziano, but hopefully my signal holds on. I think that it's what it always comes down to in football is how good can you play. Shedeur, we're hearing about practice things. We don't know how good he actually is going to be. If he plays really well, then obviously they're going to keep him. They'll deal with these relatively minor infractions as long as he's able to produce. And I'm really shocked that this is the particular player that is having the issue, because we always thought of him as a guy who's been around the game and a very professional guy who's going to make these decisions and has dealt with this type of spotlight since he was on reality shows as a teenager. So I'm a little surprised by it, and I think that it's probably not going to be a huge issue for him. It really boils down to how many touchdowns he's going to be able to throw, honestly.
I would say I would tend to agree with that. Okay, I still had a pick of Colin up there. My bad, y'all. Y'all didn't see it, but that wasn't Colin. That was Dominique Foxworth. That's who that was speaking. This was on Get Up. So you see people who've actually worked for teams, they are just saying, hey, this is a minor thing. It's not something you want to see continue to happen, but it's something you can move forward from. And now the 5th and final reason why this is in the news. This is an easy time where you can pile on Shedeur. And the haters, they came out swinging. They ran out of here to make sure they really got out here and talked about how they feel about Shedeur. So I have, let's see if I have it here. I don't have it here. That's the last clip we're going to play. Let me get this other clip. This is going to be UCSS. Jay Crawford is his name, who I couldn't remember, who was on, he was on there with, he was on First Take with Skip Bayless and Rob Parker in the beginning. All right, so this is going to be UCSS breaking this down. And actually, I'm going to play this in reverse order of what I was going to play it in. I want to set this up. So I think the most egregious part about this situation is they are trying to use Shedeur being at a let me get this fixed for y'all. This is Shedeur. He is at David Njoku's celebrity softball game. He's talking to D-Boy, who is a rapper who's from Cleveland, and they're trying to say that this is him responding to getting a ticket. I think this is the most egregious thing that anyone has done regarding this ticket. This is ESPN Cleveland, and they posted this. Shedeur Sanders speaks on speeding tickets. This is ridiculous. This is terrible journalism. Everybody should be calling this out. This is not somebody asking Shedeur, how did you feel about those speeding tickets? What you going to do moving forward? This is them filming Shedeur. Shedeur's on his phone. Doughboy is talking to him. And he's going to say like a little joking response. This is not a response and answer. And this is ridiculous that they played it, that they even said this. But I'm going to play what they claim to be Shedeur's response to speeding tickets. So let's get it.
I know I be vibing, bro.
He's just a regular kid. Like, what's wrong with you?
I'm just a little boy.
You didn't do nothing wrong. I haven't seen anything wrong.
He's talking about overall in life. You know, I made some wrong choices personally, and I got owned up to him. I made some, not great choices.
He's saying that because he's an accountable person.
I learned
from the real people.
I learned.
He don't be doing it.
I learned.
He's accountable. I like it.
So you see, ESPN Cleveland put that out as his response to the tickets. I think that's egregious. I think everybody should take issue with that. And I'm going to come back to the comments in a second about that. But everybody should take issue with that because that is not a formal response. That is not a reporter, or they even did interviews while he was there. I might even try to pull it up for y'all. They were asking him questions, and they didn't ask him about the speeding tickets. So for them to try to put that out, I think that is so wrong. And that just shows that the journalistic integrity is not there. It is not there. That was not a response. And then we're going to get to UCSS, but UCSS is even going to use that clip and respond, and they're going to criticize Shedeur for that. So it's just, you have bad journalism on top of bad journalism, which is crazy. And this is a problem. This is the big leagues now. You do have a person like Shedeur here, somebody who's polarizing. But if y'all are going to put words in his mouth like that was a response to that, how could you be credible? And that's another reason why I was talking about me doing a show on credibility, of gaining credibility and losing credibility, because to me, if I'm looking at ESPN Cleveland, they're losing credibility posting that as a response. And now they're in love with the clicks. They're loving the clicks that they get from the engagement they got from posting out the OTA stats and the rookie minicamps, the OTA stats and all that stuff. They're loving this. And now they doing something like that. It's like, come on, man. What we doing? What we doing?
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
It's just trash. It's trash and I don't like it. Let me cool out. Let me not crash out on ESPN Cleveland. But let's listen to UCSS. I got closed caption on for some reason. I'm gonna take that off. And now we're going to go to playback speed because I'm not gonna play it slow. But here we go. This is their take
Can't
on
wait to hear
Shedeur.
your thoughts on Shedeur Sanders. I've talked a lot about this with folks upstairs, but I really haven't been on the panel since we found out that he got not one, but 2 speeding tickets. The first one, 101, or no, the second one, 101 in a 60. That happened earlier this week in Strongsville. But then we found out after that, folks started digging around, looking at his driving record. He had one 11 days earlier where he was also more than 25 miles an hour over the speed limit. That's where it gets interesting because that's where it raises to the next level of offense, at 25 miles an hour over the speeding limit. And he's had 2 of them in the span of 11 days. I've talked to a lot of folks that are rangy on this thing. Some say this is a huge red flag. Some say it's a big deal. Some say, chill, everybody's had a speeding ticket. Where are you guys?
Earl, what do you got?
I was kind of frustrated to see this thing be made out to be more than what it needed to be. He didn't kill anybody. You know, he wasn't drunk. He wasn't high off anything. You know, he complied with the officer. He did everything that typically happens 9 times out of 10 when you get pulled over by the cops. You get your ticket and you go home. I think these narratives and these pictures that's being painted of Shedeur Sanders because he was speeding once or twice, I think is being exaggerated. I think is damn near comical, so to speak. I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially in the city of Cleveland when we have covered players in this city who have done a whole lot worse than just speed on a highway. When I seen this news come out, I didn't tweet about it. I was mentioning a bunch of tweets saying that if it was Dylan Gabriel that I would have kind of had something to say. No, I wouldn't have. Truth of the matter is I've had speeding tickets. I've driven my car at 100 miles an hour before. And on a normal day, about 84, 86 is typically where I drive it on the highway. So how in the hell do I look like getting on social media on camera saying, you know, you got off of because you were speeding?
But do you think there's a difference between 101 and 85?
But here's the thing. I just think it's being overblown. Zach Edey, Memphis Grizzlies, right?
Yep.
News came out yesterday. He is facing a misdemeanor in Indiana, traffic infraction. Guess how fast he was driving? 101 miles per hour in a 55, right? I'm not saying that. Is it a poor lapse in judgment? Yes. Okay, if we've done it before, you can cause serious harm to yourself or other people.
Yeah.
But like I seen somewhere on social media, should the Browns cut Shedeur Sanders because he got a ticket? Colin Cowherd, you know, a guy that was a big supporter. All of a sudden, he looks at Shedeur Sanders differently because he got a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, that's all it takes is for this dude.
So, yeah, I think it's overblown. So on that part, I agree. I think like the way I covered it was I just easily said it's a mistake. And, you know, he is a person that people look up to. He's a beacon of hope for a lot of kids. So it's just something that you don't want to put out there. That's how I covered it. And I think you're walking a weird line once you get to the coulda, woulda, shouldas, and especially when we got Henry Ruggs, who is out. They let him special release for a little while to let him speak to people about speeding, and we know what happened with him, where he ended up taking someone's life with him speeding. So I would say it's not something to just diminish. I think it's a mistake. And I think it's a mistake if anybody does it. So that's how I view it. But not something that I was looking or trying to go out of my way to avoid saying something about. You know, if I can talk about, I believe he has great character and I believe he carries himself well, I think it's no problem with me saying, hey, I think this was a mistake. And I don't think it's crucifying somebody to just call out a mistake that they make. What's going to happen when Shedeur throws an interception in the NFL? Are we all just going to act like the interception didn't happen and try to move on? No, we're going to say, hey, he threw an interception. It's part of the game. Interceptions happen. So, you know, I think that's the way I would cover it. But that was Earl's take on it. So now I think Bull is going to be next. So let's get the Bull.
Dude, to get a speeding ticket, and now you're trying to wash your hands with him.
Does it matter that there were 2 in 11 days to you?
To me, no.
That at all. When he said it, I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Then he goes, you know, they got a dash cam in my car. You know, I got to write you the ticket. Well, you got the same dash cam for the girl that was doing 92.
Well, here's what was interesting to me, and I thought I heard this interaction. It was really hard to sort of make out what Shedeur was saying.
It was hard,
and you never got a shot of him. I don't know why we didn't see his face. What was interesting to me was, and I'll apologize in advance if I'm wrong on this, because I meant to go back and look at it again. When I saw it the first time, I was getting ready for the 5 o'clock show upstairs, and it was a pinch, and I had to just look at it and go. I believe there was a part in the conversation where Shedeur offered, basically, I call them get-out-of-jail-free cards. They're courtesy cards. They're given to you by area jurisdictions. It could be Ohio State Police. It could be sheriff's offices have offered them to me. And you sort of flash it when you get a ticket. And a lot of times, they'll say, slow down. I know this because I've had one.
You got to show it first. He showed it later.
The officer said, well, yeah, you should have showed me that earlier. I already wrote the ticket. I can't rip it up now. That was interesting to me. It also made me question immediately, he's got one of those. He brought it up. How many times has he been let out of tickets that we don't know about? Maybe none. Where he showed that. I know I've been let out of that.
This is where everything always goes south. Once you start to speculate and just add extra to things that where it's not necessary to be added. Oh, he has, he has the card that police officers give out to like friends and family, or mostly family, and has he used it before? That's just unnecessary speculation that we don't even have to get into. We don't even have to go there. Just that goes right into the coulda, woulda, shoulda, and y'all are gonna see that with me. The longer you watch me, that's the reason why I stay away from the coulda, woulda, shoulda. When you have what is, why go to coulda, woulda, shoulda? You don't have to, because we have what happened. So go based on what actually happened, not the coulda, woulda, shoulda. That's why I always avoid the coulda, woulda, shoulda. Let's see. I thought Bull had a take. Let's get the Bull's take.
Little deal, no deal. I'm in little deal.
Yeah, that's what
Right, that's how I feel about it. Earl talked about the narratives, and yes, I find, and I've said this before, and this happens. This is politics and sports right now. It's everybody's in their silo. Nobody listens to the other side. You're either on this team or that team, and that's it.
Yeah.
And we always defend our team, and we never defend the other team, and that's frustrating. That's what's happened in the Shedeur Sanders situation.
Sure.
He's got his fan base. He's got his haters, and they don't want to hear they don't want to hear that most of us are kind of in the middle, and we might have some opinions this way and some opinions that way, but it's unacceptable, and we're hated by both sides.
Yeah.
So. This is my. I don't care about those narratives. That's not going to affect my judgment at all. So, it's bad judgment by him to do this.
Yes.
I've done it. I've driven over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Around the same speed he was going. It was bad judgment when I did it too.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean my judgment is always bad.
Yeah.
It means in that case I showed bad judgment. In these cases he showed bad judgment. I still drive fast. I don't do 100 anymore. I haven't done 100 in a long time, but when I was his age or a little older, I certainly did it a number of times. Now, especially at night, it probably was not a good idea. I've never driven that fast at night.
So it's crazy. So Bull actually, to me, had the most reasonable take where he said he doesn't think he always has bad judgment, like some people are portraying, but in the moment, it was bad judgment. And I tend to agree with that. And then also, I think what people do is a lot of these people who are covering sports, you got to look at the age that they are. So they are looking through the lens of them being 40, 50, 50 plus with kids and grown kids and all those things. They rarely go back to how they were at that age. So it just, as I was listening to Bull, I even thought about it. So back when I still used to live in Cleveland, I used to have a Dodge Magnum. I got it the first year it came out. I think it was the first year it came out was like 2004, 2005. I got mine in 2005. And I would race people going down, like I'll be on the east side. So I might race somebody going down St. Clair, going down Superior. And I used to speed. I don't race people on regular streets like that now, but I was a lot younger then. So I get it. I was in my early 20s. Early 20s, fast new car, I was speeding. Do I drive that way now? No. So that's why I just said it was a mistake, and I didn't feel like it was the end of the world because I just took myself back to how I did things when I was in that age range, and that put it into perspective. And I think that's what a lot of people are not trying to do. People want to blow it up because they already don't like Shedeur, and I think that's wrong. Let's get to now. I played it already. Actually, I think they're going to talk about it. So I want to play when they actually talk about him responding to the clip because I think I'm surprised they even responded to this. All right, so here it is right here.
He's talking about overall in life. I made some wrong choices personally, and I got owned up to him. I made some, not great choices.
He's saying that because he's an accountable person.
I learned
from the real people.
I learned.
I just didn't love the answer. Again, it's not that big a deal, but
I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, I just didn't love that. It's like, take it a little more seriously. Again, I get it. He's a young man. He's not a kid. He's, I'm a little kid. You're not a kid.
That's where I think they were wrong, and that's why I made a big deal about it. He was not asked a question about the speeding tickets. The ESPN Cleveland formed and shaped that entire narrative that was based on the speeding tickets. And that's egregious. And that's poor form and bad journalism, and it should be called out. Because that was not based on that. All you have to do is wait. And me personally, if I was Shedeur, the Browns already put out an article I read that they're going to make sure he pays the tickets and they're going to move forward. I would never speak on it. I wouldn't speak on it because as you continue to invite people into your personal life, then they feel more entitled to be in your personal life. And that's why I was harping on, I like the fact that this year Browns players are putting boundaries up. Deontay Johnson, he put boundaries up. Flacco put boundaries up. Dylan Gabriel put boundaries up. Shedeur Sanders put boundaries up. So I was enjoying that because I know that they were just seeing how far they could go with going into people's personal lives or going into, situations that be negative to create narratives. So I remember I told y'all that it was two things that, can y'all see? All right, it's not going to show y'all. But when I decided to change some of how I was going to do this show tonight, these are some of the things that I saw. So there's a person, and I want to give her a shout out. She wrote a long post here, and her name is Prophetess Taylor. Hold on. Let me see. Prophetess Taylor Reed. She actually commented, and this is her comment because it's a long comment. I'm going to read the entire thing because I really believe it's pretty spot on. So bear with me as I read it, but I think it hits a lot of good points. So respectfully, I have a sincere question for for the sports industry and media outlets. Will the football world continue to be distracted and lose focus every time something personal happens in Shedeur Sanders' life? It's starting to seem like there's nothing more important to report in football than a rising legend. If a speeding ticket can overshadow actual sports reporting, then maybe Shedeur isn't the issue. Maybe the problem is that the industry's priorities have shifted off the main thing, football. Excuse me. What we're seeing is an entire industry hyper-focused on a personal matter, unrelated to the game, the draft, or his performance. That's not just unnecessary, it's unprofessional. Shedeur's track record speaks for itself. His discipline, leadership, athleticism are well documented. This incident does not define his character, nor does it warrant public speculation or media friendly. It's private, it's personal, and frankly, it's none of our business. Let's be honest, this was used to boost views, not offer value. If you didn't believe Shedeur Sanders was important, you wouldn't be talking about him. Kind of lost my spot. The obsession speaks volumes, not about him, but about the media's misplaced focus. This situation calls for a shift, not in Shedeur's life, but in how the industry chooses to respect athletes' boundaries. It also calls for something else, a formal apology, because this happened outside of football and it had nothing to do with his character, his decision-making, or his future in the NFL. Let's show maturity, let's show respect, and most of all, let's get back to football. So that was her response. And I think I agree with a lot of her response. But the issue is so much in sports has already pushed past the line of having boundaries of personal lives that they're in there now. And now you want to pull back the line when it's people that you have an interest in. But the line needed to be pulled back when those people you didn't have an interest in, because then they wouldn't feel as comfortable to push past the line. And I know a lot of people are new to Cleveland sports, but they're past the line. And a lot of why I say I agree is because ESPN Cleveland is using that clip that they posted as a response about the speeding ticket, and that's just a lie. This is a flat out lie. There's no journalistic integrity, and they are just making that up. So that's the part where I'm like, I totally agree with her. But they even framed it. Shedeur Sanders speaks on his recent speeding tickets. That is not what he was speaking on. That's not that. And I think that's wrong. When you are misleading or misrepresenting what information is because you know you get the clicks, I think that's totally wrong. So there, I agree with her. I definitely agree with her. Actually, let's clap it up for her. I think she had a really, really good take. I like her take a lot on what she had to say. So let's see. Let's get back to... All right, let's get this thing. Now we're at comment creeping. This is towards the end of the show. This is where I give you an insight in some of the comments that I see from people and kind of just what, you know, I deal with people commenting on things that I post. So let's get this thing up for y'all. Let's get comment creeping up. And actually, I have part of her post in comment creeping because once I saw it, I was like, man, this is a good post, but it's good, but I think it's a little bit too late based on how the media has already crossed that line. So this is the first one. This is someone commenting on my YouTube. Now, I think my take on it was pretty mild. I repeated it a couple times, but shortly, I just said, hey, it's a mistake. Just so hopefully he doesn't get 20 of them. He's a beacon of hope for kids. Let's move forward. I don't think I said anything that was harsh or, you know, rude or anything like that or demeaning towards Shedeur. And that was even my response. But this is what the person said to that video. So what? He is young. Why is everybody talking about this? Don't act like you never got speeding tickets. He can just tell the children don't speed. I agree. I got speeding tickets. I think the speeding tickets I got were a mistake by me, the same way I called them a mistake by Shedeur. I don't think that's an attack. I think this vigor that was pointed at me should be pointed at ESPN Cleveland for what they did and how they framed that to make Shedeur look bad. I believe that was intentional to make him look bad. I don't believe what I said on that matter was to make him look bad. So let's get to the next one. So this one, this is another one. This is from TikTok after the tickets came out. So he will be just another Johnny Football wasting what talent he does have. And my response was, it was a mistake. I think he has a better mindset than Johnny Football. He was battling demons off the field. And someone else, shout out to Chewy, my guy Chewy. Chewy was like, no, he won't. He will be good. And I agree. I don't think this puts him in the same category as Johnny Manziel at all. So that's an L. Next one. With the ticket, okay. With the ticket shows is with the owners new. He is not accountable. He does what he wants to do, and he says what he wants to say. That's why everybody passed on him. I liked the comment, and I responded to it. And then someone else says over 30 should have been a Ohio felony. So that's where earlier in the show I said somebody called for a felony. This person is basically saying this speeding ticket proves why he fell in the draft. I don't think it proves that at all, because then this next level question. Does that mean every person who gets a speeding ticket should fall in the draft? If that answer is not yes, then what you're saying is wrong. So I always just go, you don't got to respond with anger. You don't got to respond with, hate or anything like that. Just ask that next level question. If we treated it like this for everybody, would everybody fall in the draft? Every person coming into the draft, if you have a speeding ticket, should you fall from a day one or a day two or a round one or a round two prospect to the fifth round because you got a speeding ticket? And overwhelmingly, the NFL and owners and teams and players and the players union, everybody would say no. So that's an L. The next one. Okay, this is one I read from earlier. So I read that full clip from her. And then that was just more of what she said there. So I believe this was a great show. We got to it. Actually, before I do that show closing, let's wrap up the 5 reasons why I believe this speeding ticket was news. No Browns news, and you have well-known Browns beat writers, Mary Kay Cabot writing 3 stories on it. Tony Grossi saying Shedeur should lose reps in practice about it. This is an easy story for the national media to jump on. We saw that. I proved that. We've allowed sports media to continually cross the line into players' personal lives, coaches' personal lives. I've showed examples of that where they've crossed the line and then more crossing of the line. And I was seeing this months ago, and now people are seeing it like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. Number 4, Shedeur is a polarizing figure in sports. Shedeur is very polarizing. I put Shedeur in the category of like LeBron, like Caitlin Clark, where people love them or hate them, no middle ground with those type of players. And number 5, this is an easy opportunity to pile onto Shedeur. And you see just from some of the comments I got, a lot of people took this opportunity to try to pile on Shedeur. And I think those are the 5 reasons why this is a story. And also, I'm going to keep saying this. I think what ESPN Cleveland did by trying to say that was a response to his tickets was egregious, and people should be calling them out about that because that was wrong, and that was a blatant attempt to get clicks and then also to make Shedeur look bad, and I think that's wrong. No journalistic integrity there. So shout out to everybody who tapped in. Shout out to everybody who watched. Moving forward, we'll be doing this thing on YouTube. So we'll be doing this thing on YouTube. You'll still get the clips on TikTok. Full podcast style will come out on YouTube at 11 a.m. So if you want to listen to it, it's already available on YouTube Music as a podcast. Full episodes are. And then also coming this fall, will be available on Apple and Spotify as a podcast. So definitely looking forward to that. Shout out to everybody who tapped in. Shout out to everybody who contributed. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.